Welcome back to Bread and Butter, everybody, where we're serving up the basics for Hearthstone improvement in episode 106. And as always, I am Doc McButt, joined by my co-host Tito. Tito, how are you?
Doc, I'm doing fantastic. How about yourself?
I'm doing pretty good. And listeners, we have the very special returning co-host, Pylet. Pylet, how are you doing today?
Doing well. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, thanks for coming on. So listeners, we'll be talking about the StarCraft miniset because as you're listening to this, it'll already be out. So hope everyone's enjoying the miniset. So Pylet, what have you been doing inside of Hearthstone?
I've kind of been in a spot where I have been a little bit more disengaged. Just partly because of being busy, partly because of not really having too much of a deck that speaks to me. I'm having general fun when I'm playing, but I'm just kind of in a weird spot, and I haven't quite been able to pinpoint it because I know that it's been talked about probably here and other places where there's a lot of people talking about oh, there's too much of this in the meta, and then other people it's just like, no, we should have left it this way. And I kind of see both sides of that, to where I'm a little tired of some of the big swings, but also feel like I don't know, all the fun decks I was playing have been changed around or have fallen out of the meta, to where I'm kind of stuck in a weird spot. So just kind of chilling, clearing quests and going through it. I've been playing a little bit more BGs here and there. Really, really enjoying that. I've really enjoyed Naga with the update. I don't know why, but Naga have felt very, very good for my play style. I like how they made it to where you can switch into it later on, unlike before, where if you didn't have deep blues early, then you just didn't play Naga. So I've been having a lot of fun with that. I had a game the other day where I ended up with a golden groundbreaker and then another groundsbreaker that I stumbled into later, and ended up with like 1700 stats on the golden one and like 600 something on the smaller one to outscale beetles that had been running rampant, and it just didn't even go touch what I was doing with the Naga. So those have been really, really fun. It's an APM style comp, so it speaks to me. But yeah, that's kind of what I've been doing.
Didn't you have a similar game like that when we were doing some duos where you had a golden and a regular groundbreaker?
Probably. So if I've had the opportunity to force Naga, I've been doing it just because it's fun. And I like how they're set up, because you can run with that tier 2 that upgrades with every 4 spells for a while. And then eventually, if you end up with the groundbreaker, that becomes too slow, and it's easy to switch out of that, and you're not sacrificing any stats. That's been a really fun kind of thing to figure out of when to make that switch between the two.
How about yourself, Doc? What have you been doing inside the game of Hearthstone?
So just been playing THL. My team just barely missed the playoffs. We're 6-2 in our conference. Our conference was just really competitive. So it feels bad. We missed out on playoffs by a single point. So that's the big heartbreaker there.
Wow.
But we played to our outs, like we fought for every point that we possibly could. And then just been playing BGs. I have hit my internal MMR, and it's been kind of a wall, unfortunately. If I don't get Quillbore, or if I can't scale Beetles, I just can't scale any comps right now, and I just don't understand why. Like, I know it's a problem, and so I try to address that when I play, but I just either roll past and don't see, or I just don't get offered the scaling cards, and so it's just a quantity issue rather than like anything else, I think. Because like you'll low roll and you'll high roll, but I just need to get more games in to get average rolls to high rolls. But it's been fun. It just is unfortunate being at your MMR and getting 23 points for a 4th place. The grind takes forever that way. But yeah, like as far as standard outside of THL, relatively disengaged, which always happens to me at this point in like an expansion. And then I'll enjoy the mini set for like 2-3 weeks, and then I'll be ready for rotation. So rotation can't come soon enough, because 3 set metas are more fun to me than these giant 6-6 metas where everything's kind of figured out already. But yeah, that's it for me. How about yourself, Tito?
Hello, I think our THL team just barely missed the playoffs too, right?
Yeah, just barely. That 0-7 record almost got us there. So it was not a good season.
We're still in the hunt for duos, though, right?
Barely. We have an outside shot. So a couple people won last week that hurt us when we had the bye week, but I haven't looked at the standings yet. I'm pulling it up now just out of curiosity.
I'm going to blame our loss to Chewy and Lenny there as the ones we should have won and didn't get us over that hump. Outside of that, I do duos almost like 3 or 4 nights a week with Pylet. And those are fun. I think we're almost, are we 5K yet? We're between 4K and 5K, 4.5 and 5K. So I think we'll get there.
Yeah.
And my duos MMR is higher than my regular MMR, I think, but not by much. I've been struggling this month to find the deck that clicks with me. I've been enjoying playing standard. I've been playing a ton of standard, but I just was struggling. The old asteroids. I played the crap out of those. I love them. I've tried a few other decks, Egg Hunter, whatnot, and then so we were supposed to record last night, and our good friend from Born to Be Wild, Hydralisk, was scheduled to be on because who else do you have on to talk about StarCraft and Hearthstone than somebody named Hydralisk? But we had some audio issues and it just didn't quite work out. And before the stream, I started playing Handbuff Paladin, and I went from D5 to D3. And then while we were waiting, I got up to D2. And then when we decided to punt till today, I got Legend. So after struggling all month and being in that position of, am I really, maybe I'm not good at this game. Maybe maybe it's passed me by. I don't know, whatever. I just had one session where I solved all that. So sometimes it just takes going back to, what works for you. But looking forward to the StarCraft thing. And Doc, what have you been doing outside of the game?
So much. So my fellow weebs who listen to this, or just maybe not weebs, but anime enjoyers, Solo Leveling Season 2 has officially started. It's been a couple weeks, but if you went and saw like the movie thing that they released in theaters, then you had already seen the first 2 episodes of Season 2. And so Season 2, Episode 3 is the first new piece of content for those people. So my fiance and I watched that on Saturday, and it's just so good. Like, seeing it animated is bringing me back to when I read it for the first time. So it's just like a bunch of really cool feelings because the story was really fun. I hadn't ever engaged in a story or like a genre like Solo Leveling before. And so just seeing it animated is just making me nostalgic for like 7 years ago, which I think is hilarious. But it's very good. The story's worth it, and the animation is really good. So we adopted a cat a while ago, actually July something. Name's Olive. She's adorable. We discovered her love language recently. We discovered that she likes to be pat infinitely more than she likes to be pet. And so that's what we do now, is we just pat her forever because that's how long she'll let us do it. And then we stop whenever, and then she'll beg for like 15 minutes for us to start patting her again. So it's just fun because she was kind of like, she's a younger cat and whatever, and just kind of like doing her own thing. But now that we've discovered she likes this, and she knows that we know she likes this, she's like getting more cuddly and like spending more time with us. So it's just fun. Being able to connect with the cat that way. I got a new tattoo this weekend. My fiance and I did some errands, and we saw a ad for a tattoo convention in our area. So we went to that, and then had no intentions of actually getting any tattoos. And then we both got one, which is dope. So we had some stuff we wanted to do. So we did one thing we wanted to do. And then we saw this, like, hey, let's go to that. And then we spent 7 hours there, and then did nothing else that we wanted to get done that day. So then we had to do everything we wanted to do on Saturday on Sunday. So that was fun. Also joined a book club with some of my friends and my fiance. because there's a book that comes out in a couple days that we're all excited for. It's called Onyx Storm. It's the third book of a series. And then I have another book that just came out at the beginning of the month by Mark Gregson. I think this one's Above the Black. I'm pretty sure. So I'm very excited for that. And then, listeners, you know me. I'm a degenerate Commander player. I made 4 new decks this week. So I don't have a problem. I'm fine. And I didn't make 2 new piles for decks last night either. That definitely didn't happen. I don't have a problem. I'm only at like 23 decks. It's okay.
It's fine. It's fine.
Yeah, it's perfectly fine. Trying to build out of my collection as much as possible rather than trying to buy singles for stuff because it's cheaper that way. And then playing along with Squelch, playing Mass Effect 2. Mass Effect 2 is one of my favorite video games of all time. So playing it again along in the book club fashion that they do has been a lot of fun. And I'm playing it still on the hardest difficulty. And there's just... some instances are just very hard when you play on the hardest difficulty, and so there's been some frustration points, but it's been relatively smooth sailing since my previous frustration with the difficulty. And then I saw Stormrage this weekend as well. He came down to Salt Lake City to do some improv, so I took my fiance to go see that because she's never been to an improv show, and it's just always good to see Daniel because he's a good guy. And then I got invited to my local card shops, like when they close for like national holidays and stuff. I got invited to the closed shop board game day. So they'll play like Twilight Imperium or something all day, or they'll play the Firefly board game. And so Jody, the store owner, invited me to one of those whenever the next one is. So I'm very excited for that. And that ends my novel. Pylet, how about yourself? What have you been doing outside of Hearthstone?
For those of you who are betting, that was under 10 minutes. For those of you who took the under, you got it. So I feel like I've been super busy and not really doing a lot. So it probably means I've been working mostly. So kind of switching gears at work, starting prep on spring music and working on towards larger group contests. We had some smaller group stuff that we were prepping for, and we got snowed out for that the other weekend. So kind of happens, we started really diving into rehearsals for our school musical. So I've been having that a few nights a week. So just kind of spending most of my time at the school as I do. And as there's one of the previous band parents kind of works the concession stands at ball games, and she always runs into me every night that she's there. She's like, "You don't leave the school, do you?" I'm like, "No, I don't. It's fine. It's okay." So outside of that, just kind of, playing a couple games here and there, playing a little bit of Forza, trying to play through a couple, single player shorter games here and there. I beat and got through a Chance of Sonar a couple weeks ago, which is a really fun little game where you're trying to figure out a bunch of different languages and dialects based on context clues, and then trying to see how they relate to each other because there's like 5 different ones. So really, really interesting puzzle game. So doing that, spending some time with the cats now that the holidays are over, and we've had a couple days that we've canceled school because of weather. Had one cat that pretty sure he was under the weather last week because he was not acting like himself, and like not chasing after toys or running after food immediately. So it's like, ooh, you really don't feel good if you're not sprinting across the house. So the other cat took advantage of it by being as hyperactive as she could be, demanding all the attention that he wasn't getting. So as what happens when you have 2 pets. And then I think the only other thing I've really done is ended up getting a Lego set the other week. I won my fantasy football league for my family, so I had some extra cash from that. So I got lured into a Lego set, picked up the I don't remember what it's called, but the Love statue in Philadelphia. They've got a set for that. That's not too big. So that's a fun little build. I don't know where it's going to go because I had a spot for it and then it didn't fit in that spot. So I had to figure that out when I take all my Christmas stuff down finally. So yeah, but other than that, just kind of working and going through the normal stuff. Tito, what have you been up to?
That's new. So started my new job last week. Can't talk much about it. Can't do much at my job because it's government, and in order to do government, you need all kinds of access, and that stuff moves really slowly. So it's been and it was all streamlined. It felt really good, and then all of a sudden it was like, we ran into this one hiccup, and but I'm employed. Today was a holiday. I didn't work today, but I'm getting paid for it. It's a beautiful thing. It is such a relief after not working for so long. And I'm very happy about that. Reminder that we may miss a couple weeks over the next few weeks of the podcast because of just figuring out new schedules and new realities. Probably not. I'm usually pretty stubborn about trying to make sure the show goes on. So we'll probably try to make it go on. But if we miss a week or here or there, don't fret. We'll be back. But outside of that, this weekend was 3-day weekend after working all week and I'm staying away from my family during the week where I'm working closer to work. So that's going to be an adjustment. So this weekend we had my grandson and we did a lot of Pokemon stuff. We went to a Pokemon trading thing, and then me and the boy did Pokemon Go yesterday, and today we just played some Smash Brothers and some Minecraft and all the kind of stuff you do with your kid, even if you don't want to because you want to spend time with your kid. And yeah, it's been fun. But Doc, before we move on to the main topic, how do you not know who Jazzy Jeff is?
I just don't. The first
I have no idea what that is.
DJ Jazzy
I haven't listened
Jeff.
to that episode yet, and I had no idea what was being talked about.
Yeah,
You don't know who you don't know who DJ Jazzy Jeff is?
No. I couldn't tell you that I remember hearing that name until that episode of Blizzlet.
He was Will Smith's DJ and was on the show. He was the one that Uncle Carlton kept throwing out of the
okay. So then I've seen him because I watched a bunch of Fresh Prince. I just never connected that.
Oh no, but yeah, for all of Will Smith's music, all the songs he did the music.
Oh,
but the fact just seeing that, I don't know who Jazzy Jeff is. I was like, well, I know I'm old, but I'm not that old. Maybe I am that old. I don't know. Speaking of old, Blizzard has decided to do a mini set about an old video game that they once had called StarCraft. And we like I said last week, we were planning on bringing on a Hydra. Unfortunately, that just didn't work out because of some audio issues, because he knows a lot about it. And his name, Hydralisk, is named after one of the StarCraft minions. So this set comes out on Tuesday, January 21st. Yeah, tomorrow. I don't know when I'll get this episode out. Maybe I'll get this episode out tomorrow, but it'll probably be Wednesday. It's patch 31.4, and we're getting a larger mini set. I believe, what is it, 49 cards, did we say?
Yep.
49 cards.
Unique cards.
49 unique cards, because I had mentioned a Pylet. I'm like, I think there's 94 cards on the set, and there are, but it's including duplicates. Now, they are doing this in a way that they've broken down the so StarCraft. We're not going to go into a deep dive in StarCraft because, frankly, I don't know enough. I don't know how much you know, Doc, but I don't think you're an expert. I think you know enough to be dangerous, and same thing with you, Pylet, right?
I don't even know enough to be dangerous, so
fair enough.
I have played StarCraft 3 times.
I have played StarCraft once, maybe. I installed it and I did the first couple missions, and I wanted to do more, but I kind of get distracted. And every time I say I should go do those, I decide to play just end up playing Hearthstone or something. So it just never happens. But you have 3 basic factions. I guess it's kind of like rock, paper, scissors of StarCraft. You have the Zerg, you have the Protoss, and you have the Terran. And the Zerg are going to be the Death Knight, Demon Hunter, Hunter, and Warlock. So they're going to get Zerg cards. Protoss is going to be Druid, Mage, Priest, and Rogue. So that's going to be their faction. And you can see that. Did I miss one? No. Okay. So unfortunately for Wicked Good, Priest and Rogue are getting the same cards, or some of the same cards. You get Terran, which I believe is humans, and that's Paladin, Shaman, and Warrior. And so it's going to work a lot like the tri-class card factions we got back in Mean Streets of Gadgeton. So you get a lot of class cards that span multiple classes. Now, also, as far as the neutral cards, there's only one true neutral in the set, and that is the what's his name? He's the Murloc guy.
It's grunty,
Yeah,
right?
Grunty,
Grunty.
Grunty, Grunty. He's really cute. He's a horrible card. But outside of
He's
that,
not horrible. He's just misunderstood.
yeah, he's a card you don't want in your deck. But aside from that, all the neutrals for like say Zerg will only be playable by Death Knight, Demon Hunter, Hunter, and Warlock. So while they are neutral, technically they're not like you can't put like a Zerg neutral into a Protoss deck. And they have rules too where you're not going to be able to generate them, kind of like you can't generate the cards from say Yogg-Saron if you're not running not Yogg-Saron, Cthulhu. If you're not running a Cthulhu, you're not going to get the Cthulhu add-on cards. I think that's probably why they made this change back then to prepare for this. But yeah, you guys have any initial thoughts on what are your thoughts on just them having StarCraft as a mini set? What do you think, Pilot?
I like it. I think it's a good opportunity. I like how they're sticking with something Blizzard, and I think that this was a good way to tie it in since we already have kind of the space themed set. So I don't think I'd feel that way if it was something like totally opposite. But I think it's a nice way to, tie that in. And just from looking at the cards that we'll get into, I think they did a nice job of kind of keeping the feel for both. I haven't played StarCraft, but it seems like you can definitely feel that they pulled some influence from there. You can see it with the art. That is some of it's a little different than what we're used to for Hearthstone, but it kind of ties those two together really nicely.
What do you think, Doc?
I absolutely love it. To not talk about Magic too much, but Magic does something similar with very many different IPs that they don't own, which is Universes Beyond. So they've done like Marvel, they've done Walking Dead, they've done a bunch of things. So the fact that Hearthstone's able to start pulling from within Blizzard IPs, I think is very, very fun, with the caveat of they do it in a way where it makes sense thematically, which like if we were ever going to get StarCraft, this is the expansion to do it. I don't see how they could have fitted in anywhere else to make it just make sense and not feel just like hyper pushed. It's just fun. Like we're expanding what Hearthstone can do and like what Hearthstone can be. So that could mean that we actually get some weird, crazy Overwatch mini set or something Overwatch related or any Blizzard IP related, like with the Ungoro expansion coming up. They could do like the Lost Vikings in there, like they have a lot of different things to work with, which I think opens up very fun design space for Team 5. I'm super for this. I think Universe Beyond is good for Magic. I think Universe Beyond Within is good. That's what I'm calling this. Is good for Hearthstone. It just adds an extra different kind of spice Hearthstone's never had, and it lets them design things in a way that just trying to build within how people think of Hearthstone already we wouldn't get there, right? With this kind of flavor. So I think it's great. I'm very excited. And tomorrow can't come fast enough. What do you think, Tito?
I like the theming. I like that they're doing this. In fact, I remember suggesting. I think we had Warshak on when I said, "Hey, I think they should be doing this and adding these own IPs." And then, like the next day, we found out about this at the announcement for Blizzard 2024, whatever it was. So I think it's great. I'm hoping that it lands. It seems ramped up a bit, so I think it'll be fine. The problem is if we run into like a couple cards or like one or two deck that tends to dominate the meta, then it's going to probably be negative for everybody for the whole thing, because then it's just going to be like, oh god, it's another Raynar deck or whatever. But I think I think it's a great idea. I don't think we're going to see another one of these for a while, because I bet you they're trying to see if it lands before they go into another IP. And we've already got the announcements of next year. So yeah, like you said, a girl, maybe they work in a Lost Viking reference or something like that. But I don't think we're going to get a Lost Viking mini set. We're not going to get I don't know, Overwatch with our Emerald Dream. So I think we at least got a year and a half or something before we see another one of these. But I do hope it lands. I like that it was a mini set, not a full set. Um, and I think we understand why starships have been kind of underwhelming for the most part because I think they're getting a lot of boost here, and I think that it's going to be fun. I'm looking forward to it. But let's talk about the cards. So we'll go through class by class, and we'll start off with Death Knight. So Death Knight is they have 4 cards that are specific to them. Uh, they're Zerg, and it's all about. So if you ever heard Zerg Rush, I'm sure you have. You got four mana 5/3 battle cry. Summon a minion from your opponent's hand. Your other Zerg minions gain reborn and attack it. That's interesting. Death Rattle. You got an Infestor, which is a 3 mana 3/2. Death Rattle. Your Zerg minions have +1/+1 for the rest of the game. I'm not going to go through all the cards, but I think for Zerg, they make sense. We got the Baneling Barrage, which is a 1 mana spell. Get a 1/1 Baneling that explodes. If you control a Zerg minion, get another Baneling. And then you got Banelings, which is a 1 mana. We just said that Death Rattle deal damage equal to this minion's attack to all enemy minions. What do you guys think about the Death Knights cards here? I mean, do you think it fits in a particular deck? Do you think we're going to get you think we're going to start? Normally, when we get these mini sets or we get a new thing, is we try to figure out where they fit in current decks that exist, and maybe something interesting emerges. I'm hoping we see a bunch of new decks out of this. But Pilot, what are your thoughts on these cards?
Yeah, I like that it kind of pushes the tokeny stuff. They had a little bit of that, especially in Perils. That it definitely landed. That's kind of shifted back away from with like the Eliza and Ghoul's Night and stuff like that. So, and that's I don't know. That's always a deck play style that I've enjoyed as something tokeny, especially where you're using them to trade off and do a little bit of aggro, a little bit of keeping the board with the little minions. I don't know if it fits into something we currently have, just because even though they've kind of pushed Zerg to be something that's fairly aggressive, these are a little bit slower, which feels weird when they're 4, 3, and 1 mana, but they're definitely just a little bit on the slower side until in comparison to some other things we have. So we'll have to see how it lands. Yeah, we also have the neutral Zerg cards that give you some extra 1/1s and has some discounting stuff in there as well. So those might kind of push it above the top.
What do you think about Viper specifically? Because Viper is it's like Dirty Rat, but you get 2 of them, and sure there'll be ways to generate more of them. And yeah, I think that's kind of interesting. You think it's going to be a problem?
I don't think so, because it's only your other Zerg minions attack it, not all your minions.
Well, keep in mind.
So you can't
keep in mind it just pulls it out of the hand. So it's like a Dirty Rat that way too. I mean, it's like a Dirty Rat.
Yeah. But it's also 4 mana, and Dirty Rat is also normally misused. So Dirty Rat with caution.
How are you liking the Zerg there, Doc?
I think it's fun. I really hope that it makes aggro better, and makes board decks matter more. Because there's a lot of stuff that's been happening that's from hand and that's relatively uninteractable. So I'm glad that we're getting some hand disruption to be able to pull some key targets that I haven't thought of any examples of, potentially. But just something to give board states a meaning again, instead of just, oh, I had this one thing stick and I had these 3 cards in my hand, I win. So I don't know. I think it's good. I'm excited to see how it does. It's the faction I'm honestly the most excited for, because it's the play style that I like the most, is aggro or mid range in Hearthstone, and I feel like these cards can slot pretty decently into both of those. But yeah, no, I haven't seen anything I don't like. I think Baneling Barrage is an interesting card, especially with how much you can potentially buff up your banelings. So could be interesting to get some get board clear on a stick.
Oh, and one thing to mention too is while they are Zerg, Protoss, and a Terran, these are not. It's not like calling something a mech or a totem or whatever. So your amalgams are not going to also be Zerg, Protoss, and Terran. You get a little banner on the left side under the mana cost that tells you which faction it is with the symbol. So that probably could have got really weird really fast, but that's not there. Um, our next Zerg class is Demon Hunter, which we have a 4 mana 2/6 lurker. After a friendly minion attacks, deal 1 damage to a random enemy, or 2 if your minion is a Zerg. Uh, Multilisk, which is a 4 mana 5/2, also damages minion next to whomever this attacks and the enemy hero if a neighbor is missing. So basically, if you hit something and it doesn't, if you don't hit it in the middle and there's minions on both sides, one of those is going to go to the face. If you're thinking, what if there's only one minion? It only goes to the face once. You have Creeping Tumor, which is 2 mana spell. Your Zerg minions have +1 attack and rush. That's not and this lasts 3 turns. So doesn't have to just be something on the board. And then that's it for Demon Hunter. Doc, you excited for these?
Yeah, so the card I'm most excited for is Mutalisk. Did they confirm whether or not this is a change to how cleave works for everything, or is this just specifically for this card?
Oh, this is just specifically for this card.
Dang it! That's how it's how cleave should work. If there's an old minion, it should hit the enemy face. But I'm excited we get it at least on a card, because this is how I've always wanted it to work, and I got really excited when I saw it. And then I mentioned it in a couple Discords, and I never saw anyone get back to me on the ruling on that. So that's why I was asking now.
No, they're not making a change to cleave. No. They might take cleave and spell it out instead of giving us the keyword as they've done before, but no, they're not making the trade. And it sounds like you're almost talking more like trample, but it's a little different, I suppose. Pylet, how you liking Demon Hunter? I know you're a big Demon Hunter stan.
Yeah, they're okay. I don't know. I feel like this with all the Zerg cards, even though I haven't got to all of them. I'm having a hard time placing them in a deck where they're also impactful. So, especially with the tribal type of thing where it's your Zerg minions or your Zerg cards. It's we have a bunch of them because we have the neutrals that go with it, but that's still a lot harder to build a deck around compared to if it's a Murloc deck or if it's an elemental deck. You can almost build an entire deck filled with just that tag, where you can't do that here. And I think it makes I don't know, I can't quite place it. So I'm excited to try some things out. So I like the Creep Tumor, the aura that gives a Russian attack. I think that is very, very strong, but it's still so limited on the number of cards that you're actually able to do that with, that I don't know how impactful it's going to be personally.
Okay, and actually, let me hit the neutrals real quick, since we were kind of referencing them. For the Zergs, you have a Zergling, of course, which is a 1 mana 1/1 battlecry. Summon a copy of this. Notice that says summon a copy of this and not another Zergling. I wouldn't be surprised that by the end of the expansion, it doesn't say battlecry summon another Zergling. You have Brood Queen, which is a 3 mana 2/5. At the end of your turn, you get a larva that transforms into a random Zerg minion. You have Nidius Worm, which is a 3 mana. Draw 2 Zerg cards. They cost 1 less, and you get like a big worm bursting out of the ground. Rip, you know, David Lynch, who passed away this week. It kind of looks like a Dune Wormy kind of thing. And then you got a location, which is a 1 mana, 2 durability spawning pool, which is get a Zergling, 1/1 Zergling, Death Rattle. Your Zerg minions have rushed this turn. And you're saying, why is it you get it in your hand because when you play it, you get a copy of it. And it doesn't have to be on the board to get the rush. Your Zerg minions have rush for the entire turn. And then you have the hero card. Each faction has a hero card, which is a 7 mana Kerrigan, Queen of Blades, which is Battlecry, summon 2/5 Brood Queens, deal 3 damage to all enemies. And her hero power is deal 3 damage, randomly split amongst all enemies, improved by Zerg minions you control. So if you have a board full of Zerg minions, then there's a bunch of them. Any how are you guys liking the neutrals here, there, Doc?
Brood Queen's effect has always been a bait. It's never been super good. Granted, this pool of cards is really small, but again, like, they're not the most impactful things to like randomly generate. Maybe if you get a bunch of Zerglings that are buffed somehow, and so you can just have a bunch of cheap buffed cards. Making Kerrigan's hero power do a lot more is pretty good, but like if there's no way to like refresh it or anything, then 3 damage randomly split amongst everything, or up to say 10 in Magical Christmas Land, like, isn't enough to clear a board right now. So I don't know. They're fun. They're just not. Doesn't look like they're designed to compete right now. So who knows? They might fit into some things better like after rotation. But right now, like, I'm excited to have StarCraft, but these cards look fun. I just don't think that they do much.
Pylet?
Yeah. So with the Brood Queen, there are 8 other Zerg minions, 9 if you count it. I don't know if the larva can transform into another Brood Queen or not. I did not look into that, and I don't know how the rules normally work for that. So there's 8 other minions, so it is a very small pool. I think if you're trying to do, something that, your Zerg minions, that, something that cares about that, I think you probably have to run it just to have enough minions, because all of the classes have at least one spell, and then Warlock has a location, so there's very few minions. Now the Zerglings kind of help with that because you're getting extras. None of these classes really have hand buff stuff that they can do right now for them, though. Like Death Knight's the only one with hand buff right now, and most of that's undead, and these don't have any types. So I could see something coming. You have Blood Tap, that has been played like 3 times since it came out or something like that. I think if it does work, I think it's because Kerrigan's Battlecry is nuts. 7 mana, 3 damage AoE, and 2/2/5s. That's fairly powerful. And then actually I think the draw spell might be what ties it all together, just because it's an Arcane Intellect with a discount, and they cost 1 less, and you're drawing 2 very specific cards. So that probably ends up tying it all together if it does come together.
And so one thing to mention too is I believe they're going to sell really legendary hero power, legendary hero cards. So my question is, so like you get Kerrigan and Raynar and Atosis, whatever his name is. We'll get to them in a minute. But if you're buying those and you get this beautiful card and you play these hero cards, does the hero card still stay like the nice ones that you're buying, or does it kind of go to the basic hero? You know what I mean?
Oh, the premium portraits versus you playing the hero and it changing.
Yeah, so if you bought Kerrigan as your hero, which will cover all the Zerg classes, and then you play Kerrigan the hero card, is it still going to be the premium, or is it just going to go now back to a normal thing? That'll be interesting, because if you play the premium, you're going to want it to stay premium, even when you play I would say when you play this card, right? I don't know. It'd be interesting to see what happens. I think they seem fun. I think that anytime you have aggro, I think Zerg are going to be strong early until things get figured out for some of the more control-y things. I think it's going to be fun. I think it's going to be better than we think. And I'm sure there's people that's going to figure out ways to buff some of these Zerg minions and go forth and do damage. So I'm looking forward to it. The whole kind of, I mean, you don't hear much about anything else from StarCraft as far as like an archetype, except for Zerg, right? That's like the one everybody knows. So I think I think they'll be strong. We'll see how it goes. Um, Next up is Druid. No, I'm sorry. Am I wrong about that? No, Druid, right?
Well, if
That's
we
not
want to
Zerg.
do
If
all
you
the,
want to
if
stick
we
with Zerg,
yeah, we got to
Oh
go to
yeah, I'm sorry,
Warlock.
sorry. No, we have Hunter
Warlock
next.
and Hunter are Zerg.
Yep.
Yeah, these are out of order on the sheet I'm looking at. Sorry. So Hunter, we have Hydralisk, which is a 3 mana 4/2 battle cry. Deal 2 damage to a random enemy. Repeat for each other Zerg minion you control. Roach is a 2 mana 2/2. When you draw this, you get a copy of it. Battle cry. If you control another Zerg minion, gain +1/+2. And Evolution Chamber, which is a 2 mana spell. Give your minions +1 attack. Give your Zerg an extra +1/+1. Pilot, what are we doing with these cards?
Non-beast token things. Which I mean that's Zerg. So Roach is probably a good enough card by itself. So it's very similar to like when we had the
mule,
encumbered
right?
pack mule.
Yeah.
The 2/3 taunt that you got a copy of when you drew it.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that that's okay. And then we've got another one, the warrior chef, or line cook, whatever it is, the tradable that you get a copy of when you draw it. That one hasn't really taken off yet, just because I think it costs a little bit too much.
There was a weird list, I think Wild, that took advantage of it.
Probably. That sounds about right for Wild. So yeah, I think they're fine cards. So the spell, kind of a just board buff. It doesn't have to just be Zergs. Your Zergs get a bonus, but you give everything +1 attack. That seems good enough if you're doing token stuff that can slot straight into the current token beast and probably be okay. So there's some opportunities there, but again, it depends on how much you're able to just put as many Zerg things as possible in your deck and have it work.
Doc, you excited to play some Zerg Hunter?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm always excited to find another reason to play Hunter. Yeah, I mean it's just usual Hunter stuff. Have small cost minions, get a lot of them, buff them a little bit. Have one that can throw damage around. Like, it's not doing anything super new that Hunter hasn't done before, but it has a new flavor, so I enjoy that a lot. I do really like Hydralisk. Deals 2 damage to a random enemy. Repeat for each other Zerg minion you control. So theoretically, like, you could throw a bunch of instances of 2 damage around. So that'll be fun. Like, granted, right now, I don't know how good that'll be, but in a smaller meta when there's not as many buff shenanigans going on across so many different classes, I think that'll get a little bit better. And then, like Pylet said, Roach is just probably good enough, especially in a go wide strategy. Like, it's essentially 4 cards for 2 slots in your deck. So some pretty good value.
Nice. I kind of
good old Hunter value.
I wonder, and I look at some of these cards, and I wonder if like any of like the Zergs were actually beasts at first. If they like before they decided, oh, they're just going to be that. I wonder if like, oh, well, they could be beast and hunter, and then if it got just stupid and is way overpowered, probably not. But like some of these look beastly, right? Like Roach looks like a beast, and we've had beasts that are not that you wouldn't expect to be a beast to be a beast. So I wonder if that's what they did initially. But this looks fun. There's a lot of I think that like Hydralisk is going to be a lot of fun. Evolution Chamber is basically, if you're going to be playing a Zerg deck, is basically like a cheaper Savage Roar, right? So I think there's a lot of good here. I don't think it fits into anything. Maybe it does. Maybe a couple of these will figure into like you said, Pilot, like a token hunter, like the egg hunter. But I think they're going to be fun. But I don't have a vision of the deck in my head yet. So we'll see how that goes. But I mean, you're summoning a lot of minions, you're going wide, I think that's fine and fun. So what else we got? We got Warlock, right? So Warlock is really weird for Zerg. So you have a 1 mana spell Consume, which is remove 1 durability from a friendly location or restore 8th health to your hero. You have a location, which is a 3 mana, 3 durability location, Ultralisk Cavern. Deal 1 damage to all enemies. Deathlock, summon an 8/8 Ultralisk with Rush. Seems strong. But that's the only ability. I mean, you deal 1 damage to all enemies, and then you get the death rattle, but like that's slow. So that's why you have the consume. You got a 2 mana 1/6 Spinecrawler, taunt, can't attack, has +3 attack if you control a location. And then you have Ultralisk, which is the 8 mana 8/8 with Rush. That's the token. So it's weird. Like, I don't get this set at all for Warlock. I mean, you do have the other location for a couple the one that copies a minion and gives it rush. Uh, you have the spine crawler. I saw something today on Twitter. Like it's weird that spine crawler can't attack because this entire thing is burrowing underground and attacking where you are. But yet, for one of these other classes, missile pod, which is a stationary thing, can attack. So it's just strange. I don't get this. I don't get what they're doing with Warlock. Like one of the things they could have done here with Warlock is kind of go back to a swarm type Warlock because that's something we really haven't had in a while. Is like a true kind of Zoolock, and with Zerg you could have had almost like a Zoo Zerg Warlock or something like that. This doesn't make sense to me. I'm not saying it's not good. I just don't see it. Pilot, what are your thoughts here?
I strongly agree with that because when I saw that Warlock was getting Zerg and they were going to be most likely token based, I'm like, okay, we get Zoolock back, and then these cards are not Zoolock. Interesting enough, all the stuff I just talked about with the other ones, these cards get around because they don't care about Zerg minions. They're standalone cards basically. They're consume and the location will probably depend on each other if they're either both played or neither are played. Spinecrawler, I think, is okay for a slower deck. 6 health on turn on a 2 mana minion is pretty good. Even if it's it can't attack, but if you're trying to be defensive, that's okay. So same health as a Dirty Rat without the risk of pulling out a 10/10 that's going to hit you. So I kind of wish that something was flipped and we had some Zoolock cards, especially because we have a little bit. We have parts of those packages, and we have the Death Knight stuff from Perils that we can play. But it just, as someone who's tried to play Zoolock, it doesn't quite make a full deck yet, and I felt like this would have been the opportunity. I thought.
Zach,
these are cards that exist in Hearthstone. Yeah, I don't know. Like, it's just they had to make like Zerg for 3 tribes or for 3 classes, and Warlock naturally kind of fits like with the idea of what they were wanting to do. But like we've said, none of these cards do the thing Warlock has done historically that could fit what Zerg want to do. So it's just weird that this is what we got. I don't play Painlock at all, but so I don't know if there's locations in there. So maybe having a 1 mana heal 8, if you have a location, like, I don't know. But yeah, like, we'll see, I guess. I probably the lowest out of all of them on these, just because they just are there. Like, they don't care about Zergs. They don't care about anything really other than the banner on the card. So,
and the weird thing too is that like Warlock, I think, is the class that is in most need of something right now. Like, they don't have, like, is there anything going on in Warlock right now? Not really, right?
Old stuff.
Yeah, they needed something. They needed something hot out of this mini set to kind of bring some vitality back to the class. Maybe they just figured that.
Getting it.
Yeah, maybe they just figured, Matt at Arms doesn't really play all that much anymore. Maybe we're not going to worry about it. But I don't know. And who knows? Maybe this is going to be the most broken deck in the game. But just looking at it right now from a opportunity perspective, I think they just kind of whiffed here on the Warlocks. All right, let's talk about Protoss. And this time, I'll start with the neutrals. You have your hero card, which is Artanis, which is Battlecry summon 2/3/4 zealots with charge. Your Protoss minions cost 2 less this game, so really good hero, really good Battlecry. His hero power is Twin Blades. 2 mana, give a friendly minion and your hero +1 attack this turn in Divine Shield. So that overall just seems really, really good. So you can give, I mean, giving your hero Divine Shield for 2 mana every turn seems really good. And there's bonus on top of that. You have a 3 mana 3/1 Void Ray, which is Rush, Divine Shield, Battle Cry. If this costs 0, gain +2/+2. And after you play Artanis, and then some other cards, that's going to be pretty much. There's a lot of reduction here. You have Warp Gate, which is a 4 mana location with 3 durability. Your next Protoss minion costs 3 less. You have Chrono Boost, which is a 4 mana spell. Draw 2 Protoss cards. Summon a 3/4 Zealot with charge. And you have Photon Cannon, which is a 2 mana spell. Deal 3 damage. If this kills a minion, your Protoss minions cost 1 less during the game. So a lot of reduction here. Doc, you in or out on Protoss here, just based on the
out of principle, I am out.
Okay.
Because I do not believe that cards should cost 0 in Hearthstone. It has always been a problem when cards have been able to cost 0 unless they start off costing 0. So I think Protoss is going to be relatively strong, probably the strongest out of them all. And Druid is a Protoss class. So it's just gonna, I don't know. I've been very vocal about cost reduction in Hearthstone. I think it should always be no less than 1. Because even then, things costing 1 is still really good. You just don't get essentially the infinite value of things costing 0. It's just never been something that I've enjoyed in Hearthstone. And there's been a lot of cases of this. The only Rogue is the biggest proponent, I understand, but Druid's been there a couple times, and we're getting back to that. And I just don't think cards should cost 0. It's just not. It breaks the rules of the game, and the rules are set for a reason. And I understand that things costing 0 can be fun, but it also leads to a lot of the degenerate stuff that happens that people complain about. So, like, yeah, 0 fun thing, go ahead, but we're just going to be complaining about things that cost 0 in a couple weeks when we're tired of things costing 0.
I'm not particularly worried about Druid. We'll talk about Druid cards in a second, because these reductions cover the Protoss, this faction, all the Protoss only, and it doesn't really, in my opinion, synergize well with the say the ramping that they have and the other cards that they would want to get into. Possibly, it's kind of like you got to pick one direction or another for it to be effective. So I'm not particularly worried about that. And I don't hate cards costing 0 as long as it's not super egregious, like it's not like Galakron Rogue or something like that. But yeah, I understand. And that's going to be a sentiment that is out there if any of these cards catch fire. Pylet, what do you think? What are your thoughts on Protoss here?
He's having some technical difficulties right now.
Oh, I'm on one monitor, so I don't
And
I can't. I don't have the videos up here. All right. Well, while he is figuring out his issues there, I will go ahead and we'll move on to Druid. So, let me pull that back up. This is exciting podcasting. All right. So, Druid. We have a 7 mana 5/6 immortal. Excuse me, 7 mana 5/8 immortal. Taunt, Divine Shield, Battle Cry. Spend 4 mana to double this minion's stats. So that could be pretty big. A 10/16. You have Carrier, which is a 12 mana 2/14. And that sounds like a lot, but with the reduction that we just talked about. It's not going to be that bad. And this, at the end of your turn, summon 4/4/1 interceptors that attack random enemies. And these are both mechs, so we can magnetize to them and whatnot. You also have a 0 mana spell, Doc's favorite. You have Construct Pylons, which your next Protoss card costs 2 less this turn. And yeah, no, that's the truth. See, I don't think it's going to be its own thing. I don't think it's going to synergize with much of anything else. But it doesn't mean it's not going to be strong. I just don't think that you're going to be seeing these slotted into Dungar Druid or something like that. So I can already tell you, if you're not a big fan of that. But Pylet, what are your thoughts on Protoss? Oh, excuse me. Protoss and the Druid card specifically.
There we go. I'm unmuted now. So I think I missed a little bit of the Protoss stuff because I had some audio issues. But I feel like Protoss are, to me, the strongest potential. There's a lot of stuff there, and with the discounts, it makes it worthwhile. The charge is interesting. And then as far as Druid, I mean, it's Druid, so they're going to find some way to abuse it. So the 0 mana spell that makes things cost 2 less instantly is probably strong. I mean, we see how strong Prep is in Rogue. The Carrier is really interesting, just because that's a lot of damage. I think it has more potential to be stronger than like the current 10 mana one that just summons one that attacks. So I think, to me, on power right now, I think Protoss is the most likely to have an immediate impact. But again, we'll see.
Fair enough. All right, so let's look at Mage. Mage, we have a Colossus, which is a 12 mana 9/4, again a mech. Battlecry, deal 1 damage to all enemies twice. Improved by Protoss spells you've cast this game. And then our other 2 things are Protoss spells. We have a 3 mana Renaissance Coil, deal 5 damage to a minion, get a random Protoss spell. And 2 mana Shield Battery, gain 6 armor. Your next Protoss spell costs 2 less. Mage, this seems weird, but probably okay. What are your thoughts here, Pylet?
Yeah, they're weird, but we keep getting a lot of cards that kind of set up for a slower control mage. And then we had, Big Spell Mage became an issue, and a lot of those kind of had to get nerfed and moved around a little bit. But I think that they've kind of slowly added enough to where there's potential for this to make an impact. So the Colossus is a little limited on how much damage you're going to be able to do. So I'm not too worried about, we're not going to see an OTK out of it, because there's only potential for you to play so many spells, because there's only X number of them. And even though you can generate them, it still seems pretty difficult to get enough, but I think it's enough to make it impactful. All these 12 mana things are, to me, interesting because it's forcing you to hit and play the discounts beforehand. So it's a little bit hard to, I think, evaluate those fully, because you have to draw the right cards in the right order, and will the rest of the deck support that? We'll have to see.
Doc, you playing some control Protoss Mage?
Absolutely not. Not with just. Also, Mage has done gross stuff with cost reduction too. I don't know. I'm a broken record about this. Cost reduction to Hearthstone is like one of the most broken things that they can do. And I just feel like it's that episode of SpongeBob where, how many times do we have to teach you this, old man? It's always something that seems fun and people like it, and then we get it, and then it gets abused, and then it gets nerfed, or it doesn't get nerfed for a long time. So I don't know. It just makes me hesitant about stuff. But if the meta slows down post rotation, as far as like stuff from hand, and like aggro has a chance to do the thing before all this cost reduction like makes the game unplayable for them, I'm okay if like there's a chance that world exists, but cost reduction in Hearthstone is not my thing. Like Colossus seems like a lot of fun. Like I think I would really like the Colossus card, but just out of principle, cost reduction in Hearthstone shouldn't be this prevalent, because even in its like previous limited runs with like it being a card or two, with it being affected by certain variables, it's always been very hard to deal with. It's my soapbox again.
All right. Well, I don't know if it's going to be good or not, but it looks like could be fun, and you're going to be able to use cards from other. I'm assuming you're going to be able to generate other cards from the Protoss spells, like from Priest. So let's talk about Priest. You have 3 cards here. You have Mothership, which is a 12 mana 10/10 taunt, Battlecry, and Death Rattle. Get 2 random Protoss minions. Hallucination, which is a 1 mana spell. Summon a copy of a friendly Protoss minion. It takes double damage. And you have Sentry, which is a 2 mana 2/2 mech, lifesteal, Death Rattle. Your Protoss minions cost 1 less this game. Hallucination seems really strong. Mothership, getting more Protoss minions seems pretty good. And that's a pretty big card in its own. I think we're going to see some control priest somewhere. I think these cards are going to be part of it. Lots of value. Seems good. I don't know I don't think these slot into anything else. I think there'll be some kind of new thing here, hopefully. Doc, thoughts?
Yeah, as much as I hate Protoss, I really like Hallucination. I think that is a very fun card. And I'm sure Priest is going to find a way to do some interesting shenanigans with that, whether that's in the Resurrection variety or not. Because it does make a copy of the card, so that gets another minion in the pool. Granted, I have no idea if Priest is going to go that way within the next standard year. But it seems fun. It seems fun as far as like priests go. This is definitely a different way to play priest than what we have right now, so I am okay with that.
Pylet, you ready for some Protoss priests?
Maybe. Yeah, I think Mothership is definitely, a card that a slower priest deck just plays if it's, needs to. And that's just value and stats, on play. Hallucination is a really interesting card. I'm excited to see kind of what you're able to do with that. It being limited to Protoss minions keeps it kind of safer. So you can't just copy anything and get double almond tools or something crazy like that. So we'll see. It'll be interesting. I'm sure that there's probably something that Hallucination's able to do other than just more value, and I'm interested to see what people kind of figure out with that.
Right. So let's go ahead and move on to Terran. I think we covered everything, right? Yep. So Terran, we have Jim Raynor, 7 mana. Battlecry, relaunch every starship that you launch this game. And his power is
We didn't talk about Rogue.
Yeah, I did that on purpose. No. Okay. Let's see what we got for Rogue.
I thought I just missed it.
No, I was thinking Rogue was the...
I have the Rogue cards here. I can go through them real quick.
All right, let's do it.
So have Blink, which is a 2 mana spell. Draw a Protoss minion. Combo, it costs 2 less. More reductions. A Doc's favorite card. And then we have a couple of Templars, which is important because of their effects. We have a Dark Templar, a 6 mana 5/5 stealth, Battlecry, destroy an enemy minion. And then a High Templar, 6 mana 3/5, Battlecry, deal 2 damage to all enemies. And they both have the text play another Templar to merge into Archon, which is an 8 mana 8/8. At the end of your turn, deal 8 damage to the enemy hero and 2 damage to their minions. So that's a fun effect. It gives you a reason to play a slower rogue deck that isn't just draw your whole deck. So I think that's something that is very roguey, but very different than what we have, which is difficult to. I feel like it's difficult for them to find that design space to do something that feels like Rogue, but isn't just, draw your whole deck, make a big dagger, or steal things. And I think that this is a really fun way to give Rogue a different type of deck.
Okay, but with all the Protoss reductions, we're gonna get these Templars down to 1, and we're gonna get, what's her butt there? The one they just nerfed.
Sonya?
The one that you play. Yeah, Sonya. We're gonna put Sonya shenanigans with them. And also, can I just say Blink should be a mage spell? As a former Warcraft mage main, Blink is a mage spell. Why are we giving that to anyway? Yeah, I think this looks fun and interesting. The whole combination of things really is thematic from what I understand of StarCraft stuff, and you get the merging of them to the Archon. So these look fun, and I think there's a lot of potential here. I think Rogue is potentially shaping up to be interesting and competitive, with hopefully something other than cycles. So we'll see. Doc, you excited for some Templar Rogue?
Yes, I love this design space for Rogue so much. But Rogue is the class that can abuse things, so like I am very much hesitant on like how this can be abused. But I really like the idea of getting 2 Archons out on the board at the same time and just super burn, super board clear. It's just basically remove it your next turn, and I just win. More likely than not, if you get 2 out, that just should close out the game. It's just fun. I really like that design space. It awards you for having like playing the cards more than some of the other stuff I think does. And it reminds me of the great old one, or the ancient one, the 30-30, having to have the 2 consuming bloods or whatever it was out on the board at the same time. It's similar effect for like requirement wise. I don't know. I just think that kind of design space is really fun. So this makes me really excited. And Rogue is a class I don't really like to play because it's usually much more combo-y and miracle-y than I like to play. But this is looking to be something that I know I'm going to want to try.
Right. Doc McButt, future Rogue main.
Yeah, maybe.
All right, so Terran cards. Jim Raynor, 7 mana, battle cry. Relaunch every starship you launch this game. His hero power is a 2 mana, summon a 2/2 Marine with taunt. Give your Terran minions +2 attack. Seems very. Now it's not +2 attack this turn. Let's give your Terran minions +2 attack. Period. So that will continue to buff if they don't clear. You have a 1 mana 1/3 SCV, which is a mech battle cry. Your next starship costs 2 less. Your next starship launch costs 2 less, excuse me. You have Ghost, which is a 4 mana 6/2 stealth battle cry. If you're building a starship, destroy the lowest card in your opponent's hand. That is also pretty gross. Liftoff, which is a 3 mana spell. Draw 2 Terran cards, summon a 2/1 starship piece with an effect when launch. And you have Starport, which is a 2 mana location, 2 durability. Summon a 2/1 star piece with an effect when launch. So we have the effects when launch here. We have Banshee, which is a 1 mana 2/1 starship piece. When is launched, deal 5 damage to a random enemy. A Liberator, which is a 1 mana 2/1. When this is launched, deal 2 damage to all enemy minions. Medevac, which is a 1 mana 2/1. When this is launched, summon a 2/2 Marine with taunt. Summon 2/2 Marines with taunt. 2/2/2. Raven is a 1 mana 2/1 starship piece. When this is launched, gain 3 random bonus effects. And a Viking, which is a 1 mana 2/1. When this is launched, gain 7 armor. So I'm assuming these ships are all very iconic in StarCraft. So I like that they were like, well, we got to figure out a way to put them in. So they made starship pieces out of them. This looks fun. Doc, how you liking the concept of the Terran here?
I think it looks fun. I remember in one of the only games of Heroes of the Storm I played as Jim Raynor. So it is fun to just play other Hearthstone IPs, Blizzard IPs in Hearthstone, and slash Heroes of the Storm. This seems fun to me. I don't generally play most of the Terran classes. The only class I play a bunch of is the Paladin. Been playing a little bit more Shaman. I don't really play a bunch of Warrior anymore. So I don't know how much I'll super play this, but it looks like a lot of fun, and I'm excited for it.
Pylet?
Yeah, I love how they're like, okay, we're going to add starships to these classes, and they're going to be 3 times stronger than the starships that started at the set. Because these starship classes are so much stronger than all the other ones that we've seen so far. And these cards don't help those other ones. So interested to see how that's going to, push, these starships ahead compared to what we've seen so far. We're definitely going to see a lot more of them, but even just the discounted launches are insane. Being able to launch it for 3 mana and be able to do something else with the rest of your turn is a huge improvement to what the current ones have.
Fair enough. Do you happen to have the warrior cards full up you can go through?
Yeah. So for warrior, all starship related, we have a 1 mana spell concussive shells, deal 2 damage and gain 2 armor. Your next starship launch costs 2 less. We have a 4 mana 3/3 starship piece, Yamato Cannon. Battlecry, destroy a random enemy minion, also triggers on launch. We see that that's kind of a thing that they added with the starship pieces for the mini set, where they trigger on launch also. And then we have Thor, which is an 8 mana 8/8. Battlecry, deal 5 damage, transforms if you launched a starship this game. And that transformation is Battlecry, deal 5 damage, repeat at an enemy minion for each starship you've launched this game. So kind of pushing you to launch multiple starships, which the hero Raynor definitely pushes.
Does it really need to read transform? Because you do Battlecry deal 5 damage both times, and then it repeats for random enemy minions if it's evolved. Like, couldn't it just say Battlecry deal 5 damage, repeat for enemy minions each starship you launch this game? It's like the same thing.
No, it's because it's a transform in hand. It's like Velarok. So it has to transform to the other one first. I don't know why it's just not an if statement. Other than that'd be a lot of text on the card. But unless there's a thematic thing that I'm missing because of not playing StarCraft.
No, but the Battlecry deal 5 damage. If the initial Thor just said Battlecry deal 5 damage, repeat at a random enemy for each starship you launch this game, doesn't matter if it's it's the same thing. Whatever. Doc, you ready to do some warrior?
Yeah. Like I said, I don't play a bunch of warrior right now. But I do like the transformation in the Thor card. I think that's fun. Could open up design space for future Hearthstone cards. So I mean, theoretically anything I guess, but we don't usually get cards that do this kind of thing with changing phases like that. So it seems very interesting to me. I wish I knew more about StarCraft, because then I'd be able to fanboy harder about things. But I am a big mecha fan, so I might start playing Warrior so I can live out some Gundam and other dreams. So.
Okay. You want to go through the shaman cards?
Yes, I can do that. So we have a 5 mana 5/5 siege tank, Battlecry, deal 10 damage to a random enemy minion. Transform if you've launched a starship this game, and its siege tank deployed is the transform version. Deal 10 damage to a random enemy minion. Excess damage hits the enemy hero. So try to clear all the big health things, leave something with 3 or fewer HP on board, and then get 7 to 9 damage to the enemy face. Seems fun. It's only cost 5, so it seems very doable. Missile Pod, it's a 2-mana 1/3 starship piece. Battlecry, deal 1 damage to all enemies, also triggers on launch. Seems pretty solid. I mean, Starships needs all the love that they can get as an archetype right now, and I think that this is a good way to do a Missile Pod thematically too, so I like that. And then their spell is a 1-mana common. Set a minion's health to 1. Your next starship launch costs 2 less. So that also seems very fun to me. I know that is StarCraft art, but it reminds me of a game I played in the late 90s, early 2000s on my computer called Incoming, where you just played as some random like military vehicle on Mars or on a very disturbed Earth, protecting it from aliens. So just fun art. I'm a big art person, and this is the only card I've commented on the art for. But yeah, I like them. I think Siege Tank is a fun card. Just like Thor, they don't really do much of this kind of stuff. So I'm excited to see like what this means for future design choices. How about yourself, Pylet?
Yeah, I think that these can easily slot into any slower shaman deck. They seem powerful enough. So I am Missile Pod is just unnerved Malted Magma, which we saw was definitely good enough. So Siege Tank is nice not only for like the damage phase that you talked, but even just a control tool. If we start seeing early giants, it just kills it. So I think that this is a good shaman set, which shaman has had a lot of good sets, so I'm sure that this finds a home somewhere.
Yeah, this is one of those ones that doesn't feel like it's like a build around kind of thing as far as the shaman set itself. But yeah, I think it can fit into things, and it looks fun. Yeah, this transform effect, actually, you need to transform it for it to do its thing. So, and they're mechs as well. So remember, magnetics still exists, and that could be good and fun. So what else do we have left? Did I miss any? Paladin. Let's talk about Paladin.
Your main
Paladin.
class.
I've heard that. So we have 4-mana 4/4 mech Hellion. Your other minions have +1 attack, transforms if you've launched a starship this game, and the Hellbat is your other minions have +2 attack and rush. So that seems nice, and it's cheap. It's a 4-mana thing, so it's kind of more a swarmy type thing. You have the 2-mana 1/1 Ultra Capacitor, which is also a mech starship piece. Battlecry gain +1/+1 for each other friendly minion. Also triggers on launch. And you have Salvage the Bunker, which is a 3-mana summon a 2/2 marine. Summon 2/2 again. Summon 2/2 marines with taunt. Your starship costs 2 less. So kind of I think there's potential here. I don't know how much you're going to go into the starships of it. Like, I don't think you're going to need to do a big. You're not trying to build a big starship here. I think you're just trying to build small starships and kind of get them going. I think it's yeah. I think it's going to be an interesting way to do a little kind of starship mini rush deck. I don't necessarily see it slotting into something that already exists, but I think there's potential there. Doc, you excited for some Terran Paladin?
Yeah, I mean, I'm a Paladin enjoyer. It's probably my second most played class. So yeah, I'm just always excited for Paladin stuff, and their transforming card seems very on brand for what you kind of want Paladin to do. Giving things a small attack buff and rush is very good. It's a little different than some of the super hand buff stuff we have, but if you buff up your hand and then can also just give one of the things you've buffed up rush plus an extra 2 attack, still very good. So yeah, I think this is very easily just works its way into Paladin stuff. Again, I don't know what Paladin starships do because I've never played a starship at all yet. But yeah, no, I feel like this is just very solid, can just work in whatever Paladin wants to do at almost any point in time. So
Yeah, I haven't played much of the starship classes yet either. Whenever I get the place 20 starship pieces quest, I always re-roll that one. Pilot, am I gonna like Paladin here?
I think that this is a very strong set. On a side note, as I was looking at these cards, it brought back the thought that we talked about earlier to where I feel like if you would have turned all these purple and said that this was a Warlock set, I think people would have been like, yep, that makes sense. Because I think that's what I was wanting from Warlock.
Agreed, yep.
But I think that the Paladin set is very, very strong. It's different than the other two Terran classes for sure, to where it's a little bit more go wide, aggressive, build a board type thing. I don't know if it's been talked about somewhere because I haven't seen it, with the starship piece with it re-triggering on launch. How does that stack with if you do Exodar Battlecry and you're trying to do like the deal damage for attack or gain armor for health? Which one happens first? Do we know?
I do not.
I wonder if it goes like timestamp wise on which one was the first played. So then it's layered in like how it sits on the plate, yeah. I guess. I'm
assuming which means that the piece would go first because you're playing Exodar and triggering it then. So, because that definitely makes a difference if you're able to go wide into Exodar and you've got one or even two of these in there. That makes your starship big, and that's either a lot of damage or a lot of armor. So that's a interesting consideration for Paladin. Possibly if you can do that, and if you're trying to go like the token, maybe you can make a starship dude Paladin. I could see some kind of weirdness with that and the Hellion, so it kind of gives some interesting options compared to what the other Terran classes are.
Okay, but you didn't answer the question. Is this going to be a Paladin that I'm going to like? Because I think you have a
yes, because you like Paladin. Well, it's yellow. You're good.
Fair enough. And we have one last card to talk about. I think we covered all the classes. Grunty, which is the only true neutral minion, and this is an 8-mana 3/4 Murloc. Battlecry. Summon 4 random Murlocs, then shoot them at enemies. You pick the targets. So, yeah, that's a card that they printed.
I think that this is better than people are giving it credit for.
Yeah, you think so?
I do. It's 8, mainly because it's 8 mana and you get to pick. And the Murloc pool is actually really small right now because they haven't pushed Murloc decks. And because of that, there's a couple amalgams that would be very, very good hits off of this, other than Adaptive Amalgam. You don't want that off of this. But we've got a couple of them, like the 5 mana that gains a bonus effect when it takes damage. So I think that this has more potential than what people originally gave it credit for. Now that is coming from someone who did intentionally put Dwarf Planet in a deck multiple times. And that worked better than I expected it to. So I got lethal with Dwarf Planet a few times. Cleared some boards with it a few times, but I also played it for like 5 mana because I discounted it. So, do with that what you will. But I think that there's more potential there than what it looks like, whether it's just a toss it into a control deck because it's a board, or if it's the top end of an aggro deck. I think that there's something there.
Okay. That's it, I think. So, Doc, that was a lot of information, but I think I'm ready to wrap things up. What do you think? It's time for a little dessert?
Dessert sounds good. So, Pylet, what is your favorite non-Hearthstone game?
I think probably my favorite non-Hearthstone game that I keep coming back to is Overwatch. I've definitely played a lot of that. It's kind of like the only shooter style game that I enjoy playing, and it's mainly because of the heroes and abilities. So probably that. It's close between that and some racing games, and then there's a couple really stellar, like, play at one time single player games. But Overwatch is what I keep coming back to for years.
Heck yeah. How about you, Tito? What's your favorite non-Hearthstone game?
That's a great question. I probably at one point would have said World of Warcraft because I did play that for a bazillion years and bazillion hours, and I will never type slash play it ever again. Um, but I mean, I'm a really big Civ fan, and I don't know. I tend to have I don't play a ton of games. I kind of have I adapt to the lifestyle games and kind of stick with them. So I'd have to say probably Civilization is the game I've enjoyed the most and played the most out of. But it's probably depending on when you ask me, it's probably a mix between those two. How about yourself, Doc?
So the easy answer would be Mass Effect, so I'm not gonna say Mass Effect. Um, Honestly, probably Halo 4 or Halo Reach. I was a very, very big shooter gamer for a lot of my childhood. Have so many memories of LAN parties, going over to people's houses, playing Halo till way too early in the morning, jacked up on Mountain Dew and Cheetos. Um, yeah, it's just sometimes it's just fun to get into an arena and just blast your friends in the face, or punch them in the back. Like it's just that's just how it is, and sometimes it's just fun because. Okay, sorry. Quick story time. I know it's late. Uh, we'd set up in people's houses, right? And there's this one house we'd go to where we'd have one of us in Peter's bedroom. So there'd be four of us playing in Peter's bedroom, and then the other four would be playing in the living room, which Peter's bedroom didn't necessarily share a wall with, but it was very close to the living room. So if we got like some like sneaky cheeky kill playing in Peter's bedroom, we could hear the people yelling from the living room through the wall, and that just like fueled us so much more to just like try to play better to get a reaction out of them. So yeah, tied for Halo Reach and Halo 4.
All right, fantastic.
So,
God.
Listeners, please leave us a review. It helps the show immensely. Let us know how we're doing, the good, bad, the ugly, because we want this show to be the best it can be for us, but also the best it can be for you. And if you leave us a review or email us at breadandbutterhs@gmail.com, we'll read them out on the show. Pylet, well, where can people find you on social media?
You can mainly find me around various Hearthstone discords. Pylet712, that's Pylet. I also have a Twitter account that I don't check very often, but you can ping me there and I'll eventually get to it.
You can find me on Twitter and Twitch, and sometimes on TikTok when it's active at Tito Santana HS. Doc, anybody you'd like to shout out this week or anything you'd like to announce?
Yeah, you can find me on social media at Blue Sky or Discord. I technically have a Twitter, but I'm probably not going to be on it. Like I haven't checked Twitter in a few months at this point. But you can follow me there if you want to. I may get back on it. Who knows? I don't even really get on Blue Sky that much. So if you want to find me on Discord. I'm in a few of the Hearth podcast servers, so hit me up there.
To be fair,
as far as shout out,
to be fair, I thought I already asked you that, so I apologize. But also, I also remember that you're not really using social media anyway, so
you're good. Shout outs. Pylet, do you have any shout outs this week?
Yeah, I'm gonna shout out Torby Flenderson. So Hearthstone player and he's in Blizzlet and Squelch and all that. But he went at the end of the year, kind of did a recap of all the games that he got through in the last calendar year and kind of ranked them and put a little thing to sell the game and why liked it, didn't like it, and a lot of the games are ones that I had played or ones that I've had on my to play later on Game Pass, and kind of gave me some inspiration of I need to get to those. And I also know that he's got another thing that he's working on trying to put out yet, but I don't think that he's talked about it. So interested to see how that kind of shapes up, because it's a really interesting concept related to the new set.
Doc, how about yourself?
Yeah, I'm gonna shout out my buddy Cole. He's one of the guys in my local commander pod. He's just a good friend, and I'm glad that I played against him and our friend Travis in the Thunder Junction pre-release about a year ago now. Really, they're the only friends I've made since I've lived up in northern Utah, and it's just good to have friends. And he and I played Age of Empires 2 earlier today, and it's just fun to just have friends to play games with locally or just hang out and do whatever. So yeah, Cole, thanks for being a good friend. How about yourself, Tito?
I'm going to shout out Hydra, who was supposed to be on, like we mentioned, and had some audio issues, and I know that was pretty frustrating for him. So sorry we couldn't have you on today. We'll have you on soon. Also want to shout out Pylet for coming on the last minute to make sure we had a wonderful guest or co-host. I'm also going to shout out Pylet's barber because he's looking pretty sharp today with a brand new haircut. And I'm gonna shout Doc. I'm gonna hope you have a fantastic week, whatever that means. But anyway, guys, I think we're toast. We'll see you later. Enjoy the mini set.
Bye.